How much does experience come into play in these Game 7s, Dano? Because you said you played in 12 of these. If you look at the Bruins roster, Char playing in his 13th, Bergeron playing in his 11th, Krejci playing in his 10th. How much does experience come into a Game 7 like we saw tonight?
If this game is any indication, a lot. Because it's back to the drawing board for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They did a lot of good things in this game. They don't take one penalty. Bruins power play has been terrific, so you stay disciplined. They get 2 opportunities of their own, but it's the mistakes, Kevin, that kill you every time against a veteran-laden team that knows how to perform. You heard Patrice Bergeron. It's exactly what it was. We found a way to win. Wasn't pretty. Leafs make a couple of mistakes, and they know how to put the puck in the net at opportune times. Big game players that have gone through this. And if you would have told me before this hockey game that Patrice Bergeron or Brad Marchand were not going to be on the score sheet, I know Bergeron, a late empty net goal, a meaningless goal to make it 5-1. We're going to win this hockey game, I would probably say you're nuts. But what happens? Their fourth line, their grind guys come up big in a huge game. And another missed opportunity, I would say, for the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Bruins. They know how to get it done, certainly against the Toronto Maple Leafs for quite some time now.
Daniel, before we get any further, we'll kind of dive into this actually, but let's look at the highlights. This one by Nordstrom, that's one that Freddie typically needs to stop. A little daylight on the short side, but the Leafs mismanaging the puck. They had full possession of that puck. They give it away.
Forward.
Keep it forward, even pound it off the glass, hard around the wall. Old school, simple is better. Not the case. Boston was opportunistic in this game. They deserve to win the game. They deserve to win this series. That, as we talked about, even coming into this game, and I said, the Bees have the upper hand in this by way of the experience, by way of the team mentality. Now, we'll get to the Bees in a sec. From the Leafs standpoint, they're rebuilding. They're doing a nice job with some good young players, some young budding star players. Mitch Marner was incredible this year. Freddie Anderson, Morgan Riley having a career year, Austin Matthews, and the rest of them. The challenge with the Leafs, though, they need more grit in their lineup, and their stars have to play with more jam. It was noticeable to me. And for the Boston Bruins, one thing they've been able to do this season is overcome adversity. The Leafs find themselves in a really good situation because they have a lot of really good young players, and their best players in this lineup are young. John Tavares came. There's a lot of pressure playing at home as a Toronto area kid. He made a seamless transition.
He was incredible.
He was incredible. He had his best season so far in the National Hockey League. As you can see, a career best, 47 goals, 88 points. I would also say Mitch Marner, Toronto-born kid, which they, for the longest time, don't want to draft, but finally they did, and because they seem to go to every other team. But Mitch Marner has been amazing for them. He's emerged as a stud player. Austin Matthews is already a stud. He's taken the next step, as you guys were talking about, especially here so far in the playoffs. Freddie Anderson continues to be an ace in the net for them. Morgan Riley, though, something we're not talking enough about. I thought that he merited a Norris Trophy finalist.
Absolutely.
He was great this year. He hasn't gotten enough love, but I think Morgan Riley's game improved by leaps and bounds. So in a lot of different facets of the game, I like where their team's at, but on a go-forward basis now, couldn't agree with you more. They need to get some Rottweilers in their lineup, some Rottweilers with some skill, some guys that are willing to compete. Because right now, it's not about your team and what your team looks like, as we talked about, James. A Saturday night in Montreal, January the 15th. That's not the
where
worry.
your skill's able to overcome anything in a one game, city to city, and win 6-2, ho-hum type of game, or 6-4, and you happen to make some big mistakes defensively, but it doesn't matter. You're able to outscore your mistakes. You can't do that too often come playoff time. For me, Weeksy, quickly, was Anderson good enough, though?
Yeah,
again,
overall.
Playoff
overall, yes. Overall, he made major strides this year.
Even though one goal's not going to get it done, Rask outplayed him again.
Tuukka was great.
7.
Tuukka was great in this game. But the Leafs, when they only block 4 shots, that's the thing for me.
17-4.
That's a lot of quality looks that that Anderson having to face. And had not for him, they don't make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
To be fair, because they're loose defensively.
You wrote down a key stat here as time was winding down. Blocked shots. What was the discrepancy in this?
NHL.com stats, not mine, so don't take them personally. Powered by SAP. 17-4 in favor of the Boston Bruins.
What does that tell you?
Block shots. What that tells me is there was more buy-in. There was more commitment. There's more sacrifice. Guys weren't. It's Stanley Cup playoff time. You may or may not want to block that shot January the 22nd. But I'll tell you one thing. under the bright lights of the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have to block shots where that opportunity is there. If all else fails, you got to help out. Everybody has to buy in. That shows me that the Bees were willing to pay a steeper price. Now, Dano, I was just teasing something upstairs, too. Somebody that's very esteemed in the hockey world told me to ask you, Dano, on Global TV today, what was your role in the orchestra? I was told to ask you.
I was a drummer.
Oh.
My general manager, Lou Lamorello, at the time, said in order to make beautiful music and our team to have success, there's violinists, there's pianists, and there's drummers. And he says, what category, this was early in my career, do you fall into? But all kidding aside, it's understanding your role and doing it to a T to help your club. And that helped me prolong my career a lot longer. Not trying to do too much and doing what I was capable of to help your team. And I think that's what you're alluding to
100%.
Along the way. And the Leafs, I thought the compete was there. I mean, early on, Rask makes we saw 2 or 3 giant saves, point blank, at 0-0. Changes the whole complexion of the game if the Leafs score that first goal. Freddie Anderson lets a real weak one in, Weeksy, and I think that was a big part of this game. But you mentioned Jam, you mentioned the grind, the grit. They're going to have to address that because with this group, as talented as they are, you're not going to be able to get it done in the playoffs. You need to change a couple of the pieces there. I thought Austin Matthews, he's learning. He's still a kid. I thought his jam, his grit, you talk about their star guys having to have that and learn along the way during these playoffs. I saw a lot from Austin Matthews, and I give him a lot of credit. I think they're in good hands with him, but they need some other guys to come along and some other pieces possibly.
No question.
All right, the drummer over there.
Yeah, the drummer.
Boom.
Oh, I didn't like it because I wanted to be jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But you know the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Well said.
Do what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
All right, the Bees moving on, and no Canadian teams left in the playoffs. So again, 1993.
Got to earn it. No
Canadian team
entitlement.
north of the border has won the Stanley Cup. Game 7, Hurricanes and Capitals. This one tied up 3 games apiece. The goals identical through the first 6 games, 17 apiece. Look at the numbers. Pretty similar stats here. It's been physical throughout, and emotions are going to be riding high about 24 hours from now at Washington, D.C. 7 o'clock or 7:30 puck drop, I should say, at the home of the Washington Capitals. Who do you got in this one, Dano? What are you looking to see in Game 7?
Boy. Am I in the prediction business? But I guess that's why we're here. Yes. I said Carolina was going to push it to a Game 7, and that's exactly what happened. I said because of the atmosphere and how well they play at home and how they feed off their crowd, well, they did that. I just think this is a tall task to go into Washington for Game 7 and knock off the defending Stanley Cup champions. So I'm going to say in a much tighter game than Game 5, which was 6-0 in Washington, I think the Capitals come away with a tight, marginal victory here in Game 7. Canes have a lot going for them, but again, the Capitals, I think they want to push this possible back-to-back championship further and have a little more playoff hockey along the way.
The home team's won every single game so far. Are you bucking that trend? You going against the grain?
I am, and before anybody gets into anything here.
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So all of you gremlins, just cool out. But here's my thing. Washington Capitals are the standard, and I love what they've done. I love the way the team plays. Why? They're old school, new school. Yep. However, I feel like they should have locked the door and thrown away the key on the Canes, and they didn't. And the longer this goes along, and I told you guys in this desk, JMO, you know early in the year, the Canes are disruptors. Yep. They're no longer just disruptors. They've earned the opportunity to make something pretty special happen.
They believe.
Exactly, they do believe, and they're going to need to. I'm glad you used that word. Right from the outset of Game 7, they have to come out and play their game. I think that they're going to end up winning this one.
All right, and they certainly have experience on their side when it comes to one Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7. He was huge in Game 6. 7-1 record all-time for Justin Williams in Game 7. How about 14 points in those games, 8 games? But on the other side of it, how about Carl Hagelin? He's 8-1 all-time in Game 7s.
Carl Hagelin hasn't done a whole lot in the last couple of years for me, obviously, but seems to rise to the occasion in big spots. And you see it all the time where it's not always the big name. Certainly it gets it done, but certain players know
have a knack
for the dramatic. Carl Hagen's been one of those guys, but Justin Williams, I mean, how can you not love what this guy brings to the table? And he does it consistently. every single Game 7 seems to find a way to catapult his team and have a big game, win or lose, certainly, and most of those have been wins. So that is an intriguing aspect of this Game 7 as well. Does Justin Williams, who used to play for the Washington Capitals as well, but I just think the Canes, this is a team that probably, when you mention the word team, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are as good a team and play for each other as anybody in the playoffs. But maybe for me, the Capitals win a tight one just from the standpoint that they've been there, done that. But nothing surprises me in these playoffs. We've already seen the big upsets along the way, have we not?
How's your bracket
Maybe
looking?
that continues, but we got to pick somebody. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Somehow the Capitals find a way, but I think the Canes have been a great story, and I love watching them play. I mean, they're an exciting team. They play for each other the way it's supposed to be. It's going to be a terrific hockey game.
Time for the clutch performance of the night, presented by Bridgestone. Sean Corrali just made it a 3-1 game week. See, how clutch was this stop by Tuukka Rask here on Zach Hyman to keep the momentum in Boston's favor?
Clutch is exactly that. Beautiful passing play executed by the Leafs, changing the point of attack. But watch Tuukka, great anticipation as he reads this, stops, and then changes direction, comes back with that butterfly slide. Excellent blocker save, rebound placed into the corner. Tuukka was absolutely sensational in this one. As per head coach Cassidy, I completely concur. He was clutch when they needed him, and he was a huge factor in this Game 7 win.
32 saves, .970 save percentage. And the most important thing, picking up the win. His team moving on to round number 2. When we come back, 2 Game 7s on Tuesday. That was fun. Guess what? We're treated to another one coming up on Wednesday night. Canes, Caps in D.C. We'll look ahead to that next. Second fastest 4 power play goals in a single playoff game in NHL history. You can see second only to the St. Louis Blues, who in 1998 put up 4 power play goals in a span of 3 minutes and 7 seconds against the LA Kings. 4 for 9 on the power play in this one. That certainly got San Jose back in this game. When you're Vegas like that and it's snowballing like that, how do you try and stop the bleeding at that point?
It's tough. It is really tough. I mean, the only way you can is just talk to the guy beside you on the bench. The coaches are saying things to try to calm the guys down. Do a lot of deep breathing to try to slow your heart rate down and calm the nervous system, because it turns into bedlam. And you can literally see that slipping in the game, slipping away right in front of your eyes. I got to give the San Jose Sharks a lot of credit. They were literally done in this game. And for them to come back, albeit by that power play, but to be able to put those goals up in that short amount of time, you got to give them a lot of credit. There's a ton of character in the room. There's a lot of character in the Vegas Golden Knights room. As you said, it's a shame somebody had to lose this game. But within a 2-week span of Tiger Woods winning the Masters, this is second to that from a sporting moment perspective. This game was second to what Tiger was able to do.
Sports
was that
is
dramatic.
A beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, the swing of emotions, certainly of momentum throughout this game. And you mentioned the Sharks were playing, you know, their hearts out, but every time Vegas got an opportunity, puck seemed to go in the net, and then Vegas defended so well, just gave the Sharks nothing. They were blocking shots. They were protecting the house. All of a sudden, I give the Sharks credit from the standpoint, too, that, boy, they executed on that power play as good as you're going to see. And from the Vegas perspective, they couldn't stop the onslaught. They didn't know what to do, and that's where you just have to really regroup. And sometimes you get chasing the puck in the play, and everybody gets a little bit panicky at times. And then for the Sharks to regroup after going down 4-3, pulling the goaltender, having some good looks, and then finally with 40 seconds left or so, bearing a goal on a beautiful 3-way passing play, eventually finished off by Marchessault in front. I give them a ton of credit to show that resiliency, and that's all they've shown is a ton of resiliency since last season when they came into the National Hockey League. Tough loss for them. I know they're going to be disappointed and certainly not happy about the 5-minute major that Cody Eakin had, but it happens. Things happen quickly. You understand why they make the call, and you have to be able to regroup. You could have given up a couple of those power play goals to the Sharks, not 4, but that was the type of game it was, and only fitting that it went to overtime. And Barclay Goodrow, heroes are made in overtime. No unlikely heroes. Timo Meier had about 48 shot attempts, it seemed. He was all over this game. He couldn't score.
The snacks.
And Erik Karlsson, again, he's been up and down, certainly defensively. I know he's had plenty of assists in this series, but none bigger than this overtime pass to Goodrow. The poise, you mentioned it, Kev, the patience. This is what you brought Erik Karlsson in for, to make big plays at big times of a game. And Goodrow, what a finish, and patience by him as well to walk around Fleury as he goes down. Well, I guess I said a lot, but I feel like I'm speechless.
Line of the week.
I
love it.
Yeah.
I'm either rambling or speechless.
No,
I don't know what it is,
you're
but
making
this
sense.
was just spectacular.
Perfect sense, man.
And this one had it. Sometimes you get in these late in these games and all the emotions are being exhausted and the hockey gets a little sloppy. It didn't feel like this. It was crisp. It was end to end in overtime. It was, like you said, it was a shame that somebody had to lose because both netminders played so well and it was physical. This was fun. This was one for the record books.
It totally was, James. Everybody, you know, the interesting thing is everybody made plays all game long. Everybody sacrificed for both teams all game long. These teams just left it all out on the line. There's nothing in the world like the Stanley Cup playoffs in the National Hockey League.
Well said.
Nothing.
Well said. Must have been extended hours out west because the LeBanc was open.
Yes.
How about Kevin LeBanc? 4 points in this game. A huge Game 7. Fastest 4 points in one playoff game in NHL history, surpassing Johan Franzen, who had a span of 5 minutes and 36 seconds earlier. Not the case anymore. Kevin LeBanc, the newest recipient of that honor, and what a night he had. And sometimes you talk about, Dano, the unsung heroes and the biggest moments. How about Kevin LeBanc coming up huge?
He was huge on this 5-minute major to the Vegas Golden Knights. They see the huge goal, great wrist shot there, picked up the 3 assists as well, Weeksy. So he was all over this 5-minute power play for the San Jose Sharks. And that shot, that's one of his attributes. He can really rip the puck. And Fleury a little off there, it seemed, but there was all kinds of traffic, bedlam around the front of the net. And the San Jose Sharks were the Vegas Golden Knights were reeling at the time. What a performance. I mean, so many guys are going to be saying,
Tell me why.
Tell me why.
That's what they're going to be saying, Dano.
I was singing that, by the way, all during. I lose it during these types of games. It's just fantastic. I loved
Awesome.
it.
Losing his voice, losing his mind. But keep
What a
the
performance by
perspective.
LeBanc.
I love it.
Incredible.
The bank was open. Game 7 at San Jose. An instant classic.
Time for the NHL Hat-Trick Challenge presented by Enterprise. Jameson Coyle alongside Kevin Weeks. And you just told me you're saving them for round number 2, right?
Yeah.
The deeper we go, the better off you are going to get.
Delayed gratification.
Okay.
You know?
We still got to finish up round 1. We got a big one coming up on Wednesday. Game 7 in D.C. Hurricanes, Capitals. Who's moving on?
I'm going to say the Canes. It's a real tall task. Let's make no mistake about it. The Washington Capitals, defending Stanley Cup champs, Game 7 in D.C. All the marbles are, of course, in the favor of the Washington Capitals from that standpoint. But I got to say the Canes, based on their work ethic, based on the youth, based on the disruptive nature of their game, and also their defensive core have been outstanding. Either way, it's going to be a great game, but I say the Canes take it.
And they have a guy on their roster named Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams.
Well said.
Does Justin Williams score at least 1 goal in Game 7?
I'll say yes. I mean, he will need to lead the way. All-time highest score in NHL history in Game 7s, which tells you everything you need to know. When you look at all the great players that are on that board, he is a compass guy, he is the leader, and he was highly productive even still this season. And look for him against his old teammates in Washington, with which he still has a lot of mutual respect for, as they do with him. Look for him to lead the way.
All right, how about Nick Backstrom? At least 1 point. Does he get one?
Backstrom gets points in his sleep. He's been scoring goals so far
of them.
as well. Yes, you're right, in bunches, and typically known as playmaking center, but he also has the ability and the touch to finish, as we've seen so far this series. I think he ends up getting a point, but this Game 7 is going to be epic in the nation's capital. I'm locked in, strapped in, ready to go. I know you are too, J-Mo.
Let's get to Wednesday, shall we? Game number 7 coming up from Washington, D.C. You have the Canes, you have Justin Williams, yes, getting a goal, and yes, Nick Backstrom getting a point in game number 7. You can download NHL Hat-Trick Challenge.
It's Game 7. Nothing else matters.
I put that city on the map, put that city on my back, till I'm up with a million on my lap. No time till I hit a lap.
You have got to look at the guy across from you and decide you are going to beat him.
I done been around the world, ain't nobody else. that could do it like us with nobody help. When the chips about to fall and I'm back against the wall, no, it's only one place I can call. All roads lead home.
History repeats itself. The Boston Bruins beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 7 again.
And overtime underway. One of the most remarkable comeback games, and they've won the series.
You dream of moments like this.